Welcome back to the deep dive. You've brought the sources. We're here to, well, dig into them, pull out what really matters. We're your guides trying to cut through some of the noise.
And there's definitely a lot of noise today.
Absolutely. Today's topic is a big one in AI right now. These all-in-one AI dashboard solutions.
Yeah, it feels like, every other day there's a new AI tool, one for writing, one for images, coding, marketing.
Yeah.
It's just a lot.
It really is overwhelming.
And these all-in-one platforms, they promise to fix that, right? Bring it all under one virtual roof. But, well, how do you know if they actually work? Or which one to even look at?
Exactly. That's the problem they're supposedly solving. You could spend all your time just trying to keep up.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We've got the stack of sources reviewing and analyzing platforms like Flaxxa AI, Flowmatic AI Agents 2.0, and Pyxa AI, which, interestingly, some sources call Pyxa AI.
Ah, okay. Good to know.
And we're sticking strictly to what these sources tell us. What do they claim these platforms offer? Who are they really for? And based on the analysis we've got here, what should you be looking for if you're considering one?
Right. So this is about getting the info straight from this material on these tools. Kind of a shortcut to getting informed based only on what you've given us.
Precisely. Okay, let's start with the basics then. What's the big idea behind these all-in-one dashboards, according to our sources?
Well, the core concept, reading through this, seems to be about consolidation and automation. They're pitched as these cloud-based hubs, basically.
Hubs.
Yeah, designed to replace needing, tons of different software subscriptions. The promise is you log into one spot and boom, you can handle a whole range of digital tasks.
So instead of one tool for writing, another for images, another for social media, it's one subscription, one place for lots of things.
Exactly. And the sources, they try to set these apart from, say, just using a simple AI chatbot. They talk up features like multi-level automation and these done-for-you workflows. It's suggesting they can handle more complex stuff, maybe without needing you to be a super expert prompt writer like you might need with, ChatGPT sometimes. The idea is simple input, fancy output.
Gotcha. And the specific ones our sources looked at are Flaxxa AI, Flowmatic AI Agents 2.0, and this Pyxa AI or Pyxa AI.
Those are the three, yeah.
Right. So what's actually inside these platforms? What kind of features are we talking about based on the source analysis?
It's a really wide range, actually. Based on these reviews, they group features around, well, typical business and marketing needs. A huge chunk is, no surprise, content creation.
Okay, like what kind of content?
Pretty much anything for an online presence, it seems. The sources mention generating whole websites, landing pages. Flowmatic gets a specific shout-out for integrating with something called PageMingo for that.
Oh, okay.
And then you've got your standard stuff. Blog posts, articles, social media content, captions, strategies, even polls, apparently. Ad copy, too, for Facebook, Amazon product titles, things like that. Emails, video scripts.
So lots of text generation. What about visuals? That's huge these days.
Oh, yeah, visuals are definitely in there. The sources mention tools for making logos, general AI art, images. Pyxa is mentioned specifically here using stable diffusion, apparently.
Interesting.
And it offers quite a few image tools like background removal, sketch to image, text to image, even a photo studio feature for making product mock-ups and stuff.
That does sound useful, especially for e-commerce. Any mention of video or audio?
Yep, covered too. Again, Pyxa gets specific mentions in the sources for video creation using avatars, cloning yourself for videos.
Whoa, okay. Cloning yourself.
Yeah, and adding subtitles. For audio, voiceovers are mentioned, and Pyxa apparently boasts a huge library of voices, languages, speeds, plus voice cloning.
Voice cloning is a big deal.
It is. The source suggests you could, clone your voice and have it read scripts without you actually recording.
Huh. Any other document types mentioned, besides the usual blogs and stuff?
Yeah, the sources list things like ebooks, reports. Flowmatic mentions flipbooks specifically. And also more strategic docs like generating business plans or marketing plans, even daily to-do lists.
Wow, okay. That's a lot of generation. But you mentioned automation earlier. How does that fit in?
Right, so beyond just making individual bits of content, a core theme in these sources is automation and workflow capabilities. This seems to be where they really try to stand out from simpler tools.
How's that described? What does it mean in practice?
The sources talk about automating whole sequences. Like you give it minimal input, maybe just a keyword, and it runs through multiple steps. They use terms like multi-step workflows and intelligent automation.
So less manual work stringing things together.
That's the idea. Take a simple request, turn it into a finished piece or a whole campaign without you having to manage every single step or prompt.
And is this where those AI agents come in? Flowmatic and Pyxa mentioned them, right?
Exactly. Flowmatic, the sources say, has these done-for-you agents, DFY agents, and even a community marketplace where people share agents.
Interesting.
Pyxa also talked about customizable AI agents for things like lead gen or customer support. The concept seems to be these preset agents know how to do a specific job. You just feed them the basic info.
Okay.
Oh, and Flowmatic Source also mentions a smart editor for tweaking tasks within these workflows.
So it's about using these agents to make complex stuff simpler. What about more direct business and marketing tools?
Yep, loads mentioned there too. Idea generation tools, lead generation features, help building marketing strategies, sales funnels.
Standard marketing toolkit stuff.
Pretty much. Scheduling social media posts, Pyxa specifically mentions X-Twitter and LinkedIn integration currently. SEO tools are in the mix. Pyxa apparently checks articles and reports for SEO, while Flowmatic's PageMingo integration is noted for SEO-optimized landing pages.
And tools for actually selling products, e-commerce.
Absolutely. Pyxa's source directly mentions e-commerce tools generating product titles, descriptions for Amazon Shopify. Both Flowmatic and Pyxa seem to integrate stock photo resources too. Flowmatic mentions stock sprees. Pyxa just says integrated libraries.
Okay.
And Pyxa adds a few other things like analyzing files you upload and tools to check for plagiarism or AI-generated content.
It really does sound like they're trying to cover everything a small business or marketer might need online.
That breadth is definitely the big selling point highlighted in these sources. Yeah, a one-stop shop.
So with all these features packed in, what do the sources say about actually using them, the user experience and interface? Is it easy?
Well, the claim across the board in all the sources is that they're designed to be intuitive, user-friendly. The marketing really pushes the idea that you don't need coding skills. You don't need to be super technical.
Okay, that's the claim. How do they supposedly achieve that? Any specifics?
Flowmatic and Pyxa sources give a bit more detail. They mention things like drag-and-drop editors, templates being readily available, integrated tutorials to help you out.
Standard usability features.
Right, and the Pyxa AI source specifically describes its dashboard as very clean and simple, so suggests a focus on not being too cluttered, maybe.
That makes sense. If you have hundreds of tools, you need good organization. How do they handle that? Managing all the stuff you create.
Yeah, organization gets mentioned. Flowmatic source talks about creating projects to keep things tidy and managing your saved work. It also apparently has this dedicated data extractor tab where the results from those automated agent workflows end up.
Ah, okay, so the output goes somewhere specific.
Seems so. And Pyxa AI apparently lets you track generated stuff by type text, images, video, and you can mark favorites. Makes sense.
Any other little interface details that stood out in the sources?
Pyxa source mentions a branding feature. You put in your company info, logo, and the AI supposedly generates content that fits your brand.
Well, that's quite neat.
Yeah. And a small thing, but Pyxa AI also lets you toggle between light and dark mode, according to the source. Practical touch.
Little things that add up to usability. Okay, so massive feature set, claimed ease of use. Who are these actually for, according to the sources? Who's the target audience? And what are the main use cases?
The sources paint a really broad picture here. Businesses of all sizes, marketers, content creators, bloggers, YouTubers.
The usual suspects for online content.
Exactly. Shopify store owners, digital marketing agencies, freelancers, basically anyone churning out digital content or running marketing campaigns online.
And what specific problems are these platforms supposed to solve for them?
Well, the use cases highlighted are things like streamlining your digital marketing, automating those repetitive content tasks, the stuff you do over and over.
Yeah, that can eat up time.
Definitely. Reducing the need for maybe dozens of different apps and subscriptions, handling bigger projects or more volume without hiring more people, and importantly, doing client work. Flowmatic and Pyxa specifically mention commercial licenses being included.
Right. The commercial license is key for agencies or freelancers.
Absolutely. And based on the specific features highlighted, the sources give some, subtle hints about who might prefer which platform.
Oh, like what?
Well, Flaxxa AI, with its focus on just keyword input for automation, might appeal to users who want absolute maximum simplicity, though the sources do caution that its claims need verification.
Okay, simplicity for Flaxxa. What about the others?
Flowomatic AI Agents 2.0, with its stuff about scalable automation, team features, the good support reviews mentioned, and those integrations like PageMingo and StocksBreeze. It seems positioned more towards maybe agencies or businesses with more complex needs, especially YouTubers or Shopify owners who get specific mentions in the sources.
Gotcha. And Pyxa?
Pyxa, with its detailed media tools, the image stuff, video cloning, voice cloning, and the specific e-commerce features that might lean more towards freelancers or small businesses who need that really wide, versatile toolkit covering lots of different media types.
That makes sense. Matching the strengths to the user's likely focus. Now, you mentioned AI agents earlier, and the outline we have talks about training and step-by-step accounts. Listeners are probably curious about how these actually work. How do the sources describe this training? Is it like teaching an AI model from scratch?
Yeah, that's a really critical point to get clear on. The sources do not describe traditional AI model training like a data scientist would do. Not at all.
Okay, so what do they mean?
When the sources use terms like agents or training, they seem to be describing how you, the user, interact with the platform's built-in AI. It's more about configuring things, using simple inputs, selecting options.
So setting it up, not building the brain.
Exactly. It's about configuring a workflow or telling an agent how you want it to respond or what information it needs. It's not about feeding it data to teach a neural network.
Okay, that's a key distinction. So how does that interaction look for Flowmatic and Pyxa specifically, since they're the ones talking about agents and training?
Right. For Flowmatic, the sources describe users mainly using those done-for-you agents. Right. Or maybe creating one by just picking from a list. Like you choose the blog post creator agent. And then you give a simple inputs, topic, keywords, that kind of thing. And you hit submit, basically. It goes into a queue, does its thing, and the result pops out in that data extractor tab they mentioned. The examples given are super high level, like answer 3 questions for a YouTube description.
So very task-oriented. Provide info, get result.
Pretty much. It's about giving the pre-built agent the info it needs to run its predefined process. Now, for Pyxa, the source mentions customizable AI agents that can be trained for tasks. It also talks about chat box training settings and creating a trainer using models like ChatGPT-4 underneath.
Okay, that sounds a bit more involved.
Maybe slightly, but reading between the lines in the source, it still sounds like configuration, not deep training. It seems to be about setting up categories for a chat agent, or maybe inputting information to define its style or behavior, how it should respond, not the hardcore technical training of the underlying AI model itself.
Got it. And Flaxxa, did the sources mention training there?
Flaxxa's sources really just focus on that keyword input driving the automation. They don't go into detail about creating agents or any explicit training workflows like the other two. It sounds more like a direct input leads to output kind of system based on your keywords.
Okay, so summing that up. The sources describe using these platforms by providing inputs, selecting workflows, maybe tweaking how an agent responds to tailor the output, but they don't give you a step-by-step technical guide on how you train the core AI models.
Exactly. You're directing the intelligence that's already there. You're not building it from the ground up. That's the picture the sources paint.
Right. Let's shift gears slightly then. Looking at the platform comparison and reviews presented in the sources, how do these three stack up against each other when the sources compare them directly?
Well, there's definitely that core overlap we talked about, content generation, basic automation, that's common ground. But the sources suggest Flowmatic and Pyxa offer more specific or detailed tools.
How so?
Flowmatic has those integrations. We mentioned StocksBreeze, PageMingo, and it also mentions something called Viral Dashboard AI. Pyxa stands out in the sources for its specific e-commerce stuff, the advanced image and video features, that voice cloning. Flaxxa, again, seems positioned in the sources as being simpler, more about that keyword input driving things, maybe less feature breadth overall.
What about transparency? How open are they about the actual user experience, according to these reviews?
Flowmatic and Pyxa seem more transparent here based on the sources. They detail things like drag-and-drop editors, providing tutorials. The sources note that Flaxxa's marketing is a bit fuzzier, less specific about the actual interface you'll be using.
Okay. And pricing, that's always a huge factor. The sources must have compared that.
Oh yeah, big time. It's a major selling point. They all push this very low one-time payment, usually around $37, maybe a bit more, for supposed lifetime access.
Lifetime access for $37 sounds almost too good to be true for a cloud service.
It's definitely eye-catching. Flowmatic and Pyxa also explicitly include commercial licenses in that base price, which adds value. Flowmatic is apparently clearer about its upsells, mentioning a mega bundle. Pyxa mentions upsells too, but the source says it's vaguer about what they are.
Any other key differences in the offers?
A big one noted in the sources. Flowmatic and Pyxa offer 30-day money-back guarantees. The sources don't mention any guarantee for Flaxxa.
That's significant.
Yeah.
What about support and just, well, reliability? Did the sources give any indication there?
This is where things get really interesting and where the sources show a big difference. Flowmatic actually has multiple positive user reviews cited in the material we have. These reviews praise its responsive support team, its reliability.
Okay, so some positive user feedback for Flowomatic.
Yes. Pyxa mentions having support, but the sources make a point of saying there are no public user reviews in the sources provided to back up how good that support actually is.
Ah, and Flaxxa?
According to the sources, Flaxxa provides basically no details about its support structure, which the sources flag as a potential red flag, a concern.
So the availability of actual user reviews seems to be a major differentiator here based on our material.
Absolutely. It's a stark contrast highlighted in the sources. Flowmatic has some corroboration mentioned. Flaxxa and Pyxa within these specific sources don't. And another thing the sources observe across all three is the marketing style. Very bold claims, 10x more powerful, Jarvis-like, replaces 50-plus apps.
Yeah, typical AI hype sometimes.
Right. And the sources consistently point out that these huge claims generally aren't backed up with technical proof or benchmarks against well-known AI models. It's all about the perceived benefit, not the underlying tech specs.
That lack of verifiable proof seems like a recurring theme in the critique section of these sources.
It really is. It means, as a potential user, you're being asked to take a lot of the marketing hype on faith because the evidence isn't presented right there in the sources we're looking at.
Okay, so let's pull all this together. Based on everything in these sources, the features, the big claims, the sometimes missing reviews, what are the key critical considerations and recommendations that come out of this analysis?
First off, approach those really bold marketing claims with a healthy dose of skepticism. The sources are clear. They often lack technical backing.
Right. Don't just believe the hype.
Exactly. And that pay once, use forever price point, it's tempting, incredibly tempting for a cloud service. But the sources urge caution. Think about long-term sustainability. Can a service really run forever on a single $37 payment? One Flowmatic source even hints they might switch to recurring fees later on.
So lifetime might not actually mean your lifetime or even the company's lifetime.
It's a fair question to ask based on the source material. Also, that lack of technical detail about what AI models they're really using, that's a consistent criticism across all three platforms reviewed in the sources. You don't really know what's under the hood.
So what practical advice do the sources offer if someone's still interested after hearing all this?
Testing is key. Strongly recommended. If there's a demo, if there's a free trial, use it. Especially, the sources imply, for Flaxxa and Pyxa, given that lack of cited user reviews. Get your hands on it if you can.
Try before you buy. Makes sense.
And check out the support before you commit your money. Send a pre-sales question. See how quickly and helpfully they respond. This is crucial, the sources suggest, particularly for platforms like Flaxxa and Pyxa, where there's no user feedback on support mentioned in our materials. But the core advice echoing through the sources is focus. Focus on whether the platform's specific, hopefully verifiable features actually match your specific needs. What content do you really create most? What automation would genuinely save you time? Who on your team needs access? Don't get blinded by the sheer number of listed features or the marketing sizzle.
Match the tool to your actual job, not the promise.
Precisely.
And if we had to judge purely on reliability, based only on the information in these sources, particularly the presence or absence of reviews.
Okay, based strictly on the material provided to us specifically, the fact that positive user reviews and detailed support info are mentioned for Flowmatic, while they are noted as lacking for Flaxxa and Pyxa within these same sources. Flowmatic comes across as having more corroborating evidence for its usability and support system.
Got it. That's a crucial distinction based purely on the evidence presented in the sources. Well, this has been quite the deep dive. We've really peeled back the layers on this whole category of all-in-one AI tools, focusing on what our source material says about Flaxxa AI, Flowmatic AI Agents 2.0, and Pyxa AI.
Yeah, we've covered a lot. The huge range of features they claim, from content creation across text, image, video, audio, to those automation workflows and business tools.
We clarified what the sources seem to mean by agents and training, more configuration and direction, not building AI from scratch.
And looked at the user experience claims, the interfaces, who they're supposedly targeting.
And crucially, we examined how the sources compare them, highlighting the overlaps, the unique selling points, the differences in transparency, and that big point about the varying levels of cited user reviews and support details.
And the main takeaway, straight from the sources really, seems to be the promise is big, these tools look comprehensive, but do your homework. Be critical of the marketing. Test if you can. Check the support. And really match the features to what you actually need day to day.
Right. So let's leave you with a final thought to chew on, drawn directly from the themes in these sources we've discussed today. Considering how common these bold, often unsubstantiated marketing claims are across these platforms, and the noted lack of technical proof or independent user reviews for some, how much weight should you really give to just a long list of features versus solid proof of performance and reliable support? What does this whole marketing approach signal about where the AI tool market is right now?
Yeah, definitely something worth thinking about as you navigate this rapidly changing space.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into your source material. We hope breaking it down like this has given you a useful shortcut to understanding these specific platforms.